So welcome everyone. Please come on in. Leave your stuff at a computer, but I want you guys to sit at these tables. You'll notice scraps of paper in the middle. Ignore those for now. We'll get to those. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about your upcoming Martin Luther King Jr. assignment, but we're also going to be talking about some important stuff having to do with how you're going to accomplish that assignment. But to start with, I just wanted to ask everyone a question. What is your favorite social media platform and why? Erin?
Instagram, because it's just pictures or memes, so I don't have to read anything.
That is a good choice.
You go to the library.
Tumblr.
I love the Tumblr.
Excellent. Is there any particular reason why Tumblr?
I like Tumblr because it's sort of a stream of people you follow, and a lot of it is just like beautiful images, but sometimes it's really thoughtful essays and hilarious stuff that you don't have to go to Reddit for, because I don't like how Reddit looks, but a lot of times people just reblog on Tumblr.
Yeah, that's good.
It's the best.
Aesthetics are important. Anybody else?
I love Snapchat because you can do, like, you take pictures and they disappear for forever.
We're going to talk about it. No, but I'm glad
You're welcome.
Patrick, do you have a favorite?
Well, my favorite actually is it's an obscure one. It's 500EX. It's a photo. It's for professional photographers, and so they do a daily thing on
nice.
their stuff, which is really awesome.
I think specialty social media is out there that appeals to a narrower band of users than most. And you know, those are all good choices. My favorite is Twitter because it forces people to keep their thoughts concise, and you can usually tell immediately if a tweet is informative or if it's an opinion. But those are all great examples. So when you use these social media platforms, there's kind of an expected behavior, right? A certain way that people carry themselves online. There are plenty of people who are going to be outliers, but at the same time, you know, there's an overarching sense of what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And that corresponds closely to what we're going to be talking about today, which is called netiquette. But why should we care about netiquette? Well, for starters, at the core of netiquette is the idea of civil discourse, that we can talk about what's important to us without fear of persecution, and connect with other people who feel the same, or even connect with people who feel differently. And this is an important part of democracy, of the republic, and this is also an important thing that Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for when he was carrying out the civil rights protests, him among many others. The other reason why we might care about this sort of thing is because social media is the new way that we reach out to each other. This is the way that people communicate now. It used to be that there were coffee shops and there were actual literal forums in ancient times. There was the letter to the editor newspaper section. The internet has kind of taken that place. And so when you are posting something online, you might think that you're posting it just for yourself or just for your friends, but really you're posting it into a larger world, and you need to be aware of that. And netiquette can help save you from some embarrassments and also some rather unfortunate implications. But what is netiquette? Does anybody have an idea? We talked a little bit about it, but can anybody, just by looking at the word, take a guess as to what it might mean? Erin?
Etiquette on the internet.
Exactly. It is etiquette on the net. Netiquette. So it's this idea that there are basic rules of conduct online. You don't post personal information, either yours because it's dangerous, it's a bad idea, or someone else's because you likely don't have their permission, and even if you do, it's bad for them, and in some places it's illegal whether or not you have their information. You use proper grammar so people can understand you. You refrain from cursing or from calling anybody a name because that weakens the idea of an argument or a position. You properly attribute any materials you use. So I know in your classes, because I've helped teach these to you, we use proper citations, and we always use proper citations, right? Yes, very good. But online, even if you're not in an academic setting, it's proper etiquette to give credit to people. If you are talking about an article, link to the article. If you post an image, make sure that the originator of the image, the author of the image, gets credit in your post. And even online, illegal activities are still illegal. You know, imagine if you're sitting in a room with this person that you're talking to, you know, you wouldn't say, try to steal something from him or threaten to kill him. That would be, you know, wrong. A lot of the stuff that we talk about for etiquette is common sense. And I feel like you, as students, know kind of some of the basic aspects of common sense. I mean, you guys have been students for a long time, you've been alive even longer, you guys socialize plenty. But if you ever need some help with how to, you know, approach interactions online, I advise you to consult the AUP that we have posted on the website, and that I know that you guys paid attention to because you had to sign it, and you had to have your parents sign it that said that you saw it, and then you had to bring it back. So I'm sure that you all have it memorized. So if I were to tell you to pay special attention to points 3 to 5, you should know right off the top of your head what I'm talking about. But I'm a nice guy, so I'm just going to show you up here. Sorry that this is a little difficult to read. But points 3 to 5, basically respect copyright. You're not allowed to harass or discriminate against anyone using technology, and basically you're not allowed to do anything illegal or disruptive to the school environment while using technology. And you can go to this link here, or this link here that is totally not made up, as it says right on it. But, so we've talked a little bit now about what netiquette is, kind of how it's a series of expectations. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? No? Okay, perfect. So the next question, we're talking a lot about how to behave online, but the question is, where are you supposed to behave online? Where is the place where etiquette becomes an issue? And that is social media. Now, we talked about social media platforms, so does anybody have a good sense of what is social media? Yes, Erin.
A way to share information?
Exactly. Specifically, it is a technology which allows users to share information, and it can be in a wide variety of formats. This technology, because it is social by nature, means that it is inherently connected. It's visible. You're not just putting this information up there to store it just for you, you're putting it up there for people to see. And like we talked about just a little bit ago, that means that other people are going to be able to access it, other people are going to be able to respond to it, and you want to make sure that they're going to respond appropriately. And there are many platforms out there, including the specialized photography platforms, but none of them have absolute privacy. So whatever you're posting to social media is going to possibly find its way out and into the world later, which could be very problematic, as we might have seen in the last few weeks. So the AUP actually gives us some useful guidelines for dealing with social media. It says, and I quote, that social media in the school is supposed to be used in support of education and research. The items that you recover using social media is protected by copyright and fair use, and you should not be using items found through social media or posting stuff to social media that is harmful or illegal or disruptive. Courtney, can you tell me an example of something that might be harmful if you posted it?
I could think of maybe saying something mean to somebody else in class and posting it on social media, or saying, you know, something mean about somebody else and posting it just to your Facebook page or something.
Yeah, that is a good example. And Keegan, why might that be harmful? What kind of problems could that cause?
Because that could make someone feel bad about themselves.
Exactly.
Bullying.
It is. That is the definition of bullying. And in fact, it might even be cyberbullying, because it happens online. So, any questions about social media? So, the thrust that we're getting to here is active participation. Now, I know that a lot of you have studied active participation. basically as the civil rights movement, for example, the civil disobedience, the protests, those all qualify as active participation. Well, what might active participation mean for the online world? Now, I'm not going to ask you guys to come up with the definition right away, because the key to understanding active participation is in this word right here, active. Because what is the opposite of active?
Passive.
Passive, yes, exactly. And so you might imagine what the differences might be. For example, active participation. You're contributing new material to the discussion. You are performing a close reading. You are paying close attention as you read or as you listen or as you watch something that you find on social media. You're responding to other people's materials. When you respond, you are complimenting them if you agree with them and if you feel like they did something correct. You are offering constructive feedback if you think that maybe a point was wrong or any of their information was wrong, or if you just simply respectfully disagree with their point of view, and you're asking questions, because the whole point is to connect with your fellow man or woman. Whereas passive participation, you skim articles or you just read the headlines. You don't post in response, you simply absorb, or if you do make any sort of contribution, you're letting the like button inform people how you feel, or you might respond with one-word comments like yes, or this, or the scourge of the earth, TLDR. But, which, by the way, if you don't know, TLDR means too long, did not read. Yes.
I did not know.
I didn't.
That is a thing that people actually post. But let that sink in for a minute.
So if I put this on your papers. That's why I laughed. I'm
Uh-oh,
joking.
I've opened that can of worms. I feel horrible now.
No, I'm joking.
So, on social media, active participation might take several forms. You might have blog posts. You might have video. You might have comment threads, which are slightly different from a blog post because a blog post is meant to stand on its own, whereas a comment thread tails off of existing material. But that doesn't stop comment threads from being a source of active participation. You can interact with the author of the post, you can interact with people who have also read or watched that post. You know, one of the social media platforms that didn't come up was YouTube. A lot of people think of that more as a utility, but that's still social media because you're still sharing ideas. You can still go there to absorb and to post your own ideas. Another example is podcasts. Those might seem a lot more passive because generally you're just listening and you can't react live to what anybody is doing. But really, you can't do that when someone posts a video or if someone's writing a blog post either. You're still absorbing their ideas and then, ideally, using those ideas in order to create and post your own, synthesizing information. I put Brain Scan up here as an example of kind of how things will change likely in the future. New social media platforms are coming out every day. And to bring this back to the discussion about netiquette, if you have a baseline approach to how you behave online, it doesn't matter what the next thing will be. Maybe it will be Brain Scan. Maybe you will be able to just beam your thoughts directly into somebody else's head, and you can do so with a civil manner. So, any questions before we proceed? No? Everyone's following along? Okay. So, your assignment, as Mr. Watney told me, is that you are going to be focusing on a historical figure who shares a quality or multiple qualities with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the way that you're going to be expressing these qualities and the similarities between this figure of your choice and MLK is by creating a Pinterest board that will serve as a mood board for what your historical figure might think of modern day events and how that ties back into the qualities of Dr. Martin Luther King. So in order to kind of prepare you for that, because I'm not sure how many of you have used Pinterest before, and we will be going over the how to set up a Pinterest account, how to make a pin board, as it's called, and then how to pin items to it. But I thought that we might talk a little bit and kind of get those creative juices flowing by doing a little exercise. So Mr. Watney shared with me some of the qualities of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Obviously, I know that you guys probably have a longer list for yourselves, but what I want you to do at your tables is get into groups. Get into groups. Once you're in your groups, you're going to be, each of you, about 4 or 5, you're going to be getting into groups of 4 or 5, I should have specified. There's that many chairs at each table. You're going to each choose a quality of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that you are going to be selecting for, and on each table is a pile of materials, photos, news articles, and other various items that may or may not link up with the qualities associated with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You are each going to choose one item. You are going to explain to each other why you chose that item, and then you're going to have a discussion about whether or not that item, you feel like that item fits that quality of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You're going to ask questions about why someone might have chosen one item over another. And we're going to be doing that for a few minutes. Once you're done, we'll talk some more, and we'll come back together, do a little summary, and then it's on to the Pinterest tutorial as well as finding the book. This is when I take the time to go through the assignment. I walk around, help everyone do it. I really want to do this actual assignment, but I couldn't get my time down enough to allow for the time required. So we come back, and I say, okay, so that was good discussion. If anyone has any questions about that aspect, please come and find me. But for now, what I want you guys to do is go to Pinterest.com. We're going to be signing you guys up to create pin boards. I'll show you how you find pins online and add them to your boards. After that, in order for you guys will be cut loose in order to find a biographical resource for your historical figure. Once you've done that, once you have your biographical resource chosen for your historical figure, you're going to come back, work on your pin boards. In order to leave class today, you do need that biographical resource. Otherwise, Mr. Watney says he's going to leave you here with me, and I get to turn you into a library intern. If anyone has any questions, again, I'll be walking around. You can just grab me if you need me. Otherwise, get to work and have fun. That's it for this.